And I mean, if people just sit back and think like, yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, though, it's never going to be as bad as it was, or they're not actually going towards full-blown like Christian fascism, like some of them are saying out loud right now. It's like, well, it's because maybe they're not coming for you yet. Maybe you don't happen to be gay or bi or lesbian or trans or non-binary. Like, you're none of those things. You're not asexual either. You fit pretty comfortably into the norms of society. So if there are people who are trying to ramp up and hold on to things like white supremacy or patriarchy, or really trying to push for that stuff, it may not feel as bad, because sometimes it doesn't feel as if things like patriarchy hurt men, which it almost certainly does. It's really bad for men. Very, very bad for men. Start some DeSantis. Y'all know Ron DeSantis, of course, governor of Florida, one of the people who has executed the Don't Say Gay bill, a bill that they told us would not specifically target members of the queer community, that it was actually just about not teaching children about sex, sexuality, and all that kind of stuff. Turns out they were lying. Yeah, they lie quite a bit. Turns out it was exactly to target the queer community, and now we're seeing things like rainbow flags getting banned in schools. There was this recently. I'm posting this with her mother's permission because I need everyone to see what Ron DeSantis' Florida really looks like. 13-year-olds being arrested for protesting for their own freedoms.
Lily, just don't resist. Lily, don't resist, honey. It's okay. I got you. What is the state statute? Lily, you're okay, bud. I got you. Mom's right behind you. You're okay. Don't resist.
My name's Renew, 7-6.
What's their names?
Oh, they have to tell you that.
All right, hey, guys, breaking the law.
Hey, you're okay, bud. Mom's right here. Lily, you're okay.
What's your name, sir? What's your name, sir?
So, I guess this is what Joe Rogan thinks freedom is. I don't know. I'm confused. Joe Rogan freedom video. I know there was that weird video he posted about odd men. Odd men make good times. Good times make soft men. Soft men make odd times. Odd times make odd men. Freedom video. This is it. I found it. I found my freedom video. Get ready, everyone. Get ready for all of the feels. All of them. All at once.
Any kind of power that didn't exist previously. If they can figure out a way to force you into carrying something that lets you enter businesses, or lets you do this, or lets businesses open, historically, they are not going to give that power up. They find new reasons to use it.
I'll be back.
We have to protect those freedoms at all costs, whether you agree with people's choices or not, because it is the foundation that this country was founded on. Freedom. This idea of freedom, there's so many people that think it's frivolous, it's not important, it's not the main thing that we should be focused on, but it is the literal structure that allows this country to be so fucking amazing. Every single country that's ever existed other than the United States, up until 1776, every fucking country that has ever existed was run by dictators. All of them. This is the first experiment in self-government that actually worked, and it created the greatest superpower the world's ever known. It created the greatest cultural machine, the greatest machine of art and creativity and innovation right fucking here. And how did it do that? It did it through freedom. And as soon as you see something, anything that comes along and inhibits your freedom, you should be very cautious of that thing. You should be very suspicious.
Clean up your room.
Because anything that comes along that can inhibit your freedom is, by definition, anti-American.
Vaccines are Nazis, Nazis are vaccines. That's what I learned. I learned something today. Vaccines are Nazis, and Nazis are don't Nazi your vaccines, everyone. It's real. Hey, Lucid Orpheus, thanks for the prime. I appreciate it. So
as soon as you give
that's Joe I Love Freedom Rogan, who recently said that he wants to be endorsing Ron DeSantis for president. His reasoning is that Joe Biden apparently is not completely with it. He's not astute, which is not entirely inaccurate, although I don't know if I would look upon the kind of ineffective and let's just say spineless Democratic presidential candidate, and then the dude who is down with lifting the freedoms you love so much from your hands. And I know what you're all thinking. Well, this doesn't really apply to cis heterosexual white dudes. Doesn't apply to them. For now, for now, as you can see in this clip that occurred, that was a white mother with a white daughter who had to scream at her young daughter, do not resist, to the police officer arresting her for exercising her First Amendment rights. So it's a matter of time. Civil liberties will erode for all under a far-right authoritarian administration. It does not matter. And guess what? You have friends who are women, I'm sure. You have family members who are women. Everyone has a mother. That's certainly a thing. You may have daughters. You may have family members who have daughters. You may have family members who have daughters. You may have family members who are trans. You never know. That doesn't mean that you should accept the way the fucking pulse is going in this country, especially in this province. DeSantis signs bill requiring Florida students, professors to register political views with the state. Public universities in Florida will be required to survey both faculty and students on their political beliefs and viewpoints, with the institutions at risk losing their funding if the responses are not satisfactory to the state's Republican-led legislator. The unprecedented project, which was tucked into law, signed on Tuesday by Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, is part of a long-running nationwide right-wing push to promote intellectual diversity on campus. Though worries over a lack of detail in the survey's privacy protections and questions over what the results may ultimately be used for hover into the venture. Based on the bill's language, survey responses will not necessarily be anonymous, sparking worries amongst many professors and other university staff that they may be targeted, held back in their careers, or even fired for their beliefs. According to the bill's sponsor, State Senator Ray Rodriguez, faculty will not be promoted or fired based on their responses, but as Tampa Bay Times reported Tuesday, the bill itself does not back up those claims. The only details of the survey come via a passage over its purpose to discover the extent to which competing ideas and perspectives are presented at public universities. This is always, on the one end, how it is being framed, because obviously there's going to be very large media coverage of these kind of things. If you frame the whole thing as, well, this is just to promote a diversity of inclusion. So we just want to know how many people we have who skew left or far left, and then we know how to balance out by hiring more, academics who skew right to far right to balance it all out. This is basically a horseshoe theory in a bill. That's why we're doing it. It's not because we're going to have a database of the political beliefs of academia. And yes, that was something that the Nazis did. Yes, stroke for stroke. That one is just a one-to-one thing, okay? Now, I'm not trying to do the Godwin's Law here. I'm not trying to compare this one-to-one. This is not exactly the exact same thing, but it should be worrisome to a lot of people. It should be worrisome when you have an administration that is distinctly going after queer people, academics, the media, art. Hey, does that ring any bells for anybody? Because holy shit, that's starting to stack up there. That's quite a few of them. Republicans have long held the universities promote left-wing ideologies and discriminate against conservative students and staff. Oh, and might I add one thing? If you have liberals in your life who are whispering in your ears on a regular basis to calm down, you're exaggerating, just calm down. They're not that bad. They're not going to do the same. They're not going to do the things they say they're going to do. That's the fucked up thing. When it comes to the Roe v. Wade getting struck down, because yes, there's a whole bunch more far-right Supreme Court justices appointed, including one that is in a literal cult. A cult where women are called handmaidens. You can't make that up. They are taught to be subservient to their husbands in that cult that she is a part of, and now a part of the highest fucking court in the land, who dictates fucking what half the population have in terms of civil rights and control and bodily autonomy over their bodies. Yes, Roe v. Wade was always kind of like not exactly the strongest defense for something like the right to have an abortion that should be codified into law. I agree with that, but it was still the best that you had, you know? It was the best that you had at the time. So when you have people in your life whispering on a regular basis, usually libs, it's not as bad as you think. Stop exaggerating. These are not people trying to march towards history, towards like everything isn't fascist and Nazis, okay? Well, I can compare this to Mussolini and his rise and what happened to Gramsci and very similar events that happened around that. It's like, no, fuck that, okay? Everything isn't fucking fascismo, okay, lefties? You got to get over that example. It's like, well, how many do you need? I can pull up countless historical examples. There are patterns that usually happen, and they're usually a very strong emphasis on policing, militarization, combined with disdain for the mainstream media, the Lugenpress, the Line Press. There was a scapegoating and othering of certain groups, Jewish people, queer people, for example. There's violence, burning down of institutions, a seizing of power, through methods that are not supposed to be the intended route, all these kind of things. A hatred. Again, this one is the other other one, a hatred of academia, a hatred of higher institutions, of universities, of those organizations, conspiracy theories that surround them sometimes, a hate of the arts, seen as modern art as being degenerate and perverse, whereas classical art and returning to the old ways, returning to the way life used to be, is seen as noble and pure, Puritan, all this kind of shit. Like, keep having to point them out one after the other. And I mean, if people just sit back and think like, yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, though, it's never going to be as bad as it was, or they're not actually going towards full-blown like Christian fascism like some of them are saying out loud right now. It's like, well, it's because maybe they're not coming for you yet. Maybe you don't happen to be gay or bi or lesbian or trans or non-binary. Like, you're none of those things. You're not asexual either. You fit pretty comfortably into the norms of society. So if there are people who are trying to ramp up and hold on to things like white supremacy or patriarchy, or really trying to push for that stuff, it may not feel as bad, because sometimes it doesn't feel as if things like patriarchy hurt men, which it almost certainly does. It's really bad for men. Very, very bad for men. But anyways, it's not really going to apply to you. You're an ally. You don't care that much. You're pro-trans rights, but at the same time, you kind of tell people, well, yeah, I'm pro-trans rights. I just kind of think we should be able to ask questions about prisons, because like, aren't like trans women raping a whole bunch of like women in prison? And like, can't we talk about sports, because like, aren't trans women like winning every single competition in the Olympics or something like that? And like, I don't know, I think like trans kids, if they have like gender affirming care, that's kind of like child abuse. I don't know. So I guess what's happening right now isn't that bad. I don't really see it as that bad. I see all of you as exaggerating. I see you all kind of exaggerating about this. I see all of you just sitting back and being like, well, fucking, this is a really bad sign. This is not good. That's not how tax dollars, and that's not something that we're going to be supporting moving forward, DeSantis said. When pressed by reporters, the governor did not offer any specific examples of repression and discrimination faced by conservative students, simply saying that he knows a lot of parents who worry about their children being indoctrinated on campus. It's almost as if this isn't a thing that happens. It's almost as if this was made up and fucking propagated by Fox News on a fucking vicious, continuous cycle. Like, just non-stop propaganda coming directly into our eardrums. We have to listen to it on a regular basis. And then all of a sudden it's like, this is a problem that's happening. Conservative children feel that they're ostracized by their teachers. You know, they have very hard times. This postmodern cultural Marxism that is pretty much the indoctrination given to every student. They have to pledge allegiance to the manifesto when they walk in. They all have to tell them which is their favorite book by Kropotkin. And if they can't answer, then of course they will be caned and beaten. I think these are real concerns that some parents have. I don't have direct examples for you of this happening. We don't have the stats and the data because it's just not there yet. People won't even allow us to ask these hard questions. If you did, maybe we would find it for you. But until that point happens, we have to legislate against this to make sure that every right-wing child feels safe at school. All right? They need to feel safe and secure. They need a safe space. They're building them a literal safe space. That's what's happening. They're building them literal safe spaces at institutions where they have been railing against safe spaces for so long now. No more safe spaces. Snowflakes, we don't need safe spaces. Those safe spaces you're talking about, most likely, they were organizations formed by marginalized communities, black students, or like LGBTQIA plus students, indigenous students, because they didn't feel represented or safe, broadly speaking, by the vast plethora of white people present in academia. So they wanted, and heterosexual cis white people, so they wanted to be able to have an area where they could go and meet up and not feel like someone's going to make fun of them, not feel like someone's going to ask to touch their hair, not feel like someone's going to ask them if they are he or she, not worry about having to be questioned if they were walking into a bathroom, all these kind of things. That's what they wanted by a space that is safe. And just one that doesn't have the consistent amount of people around them being like, oh, he, she, they, fucking, I listened to Dr. Peterson yesterday. He told me apparently people are going to be arrested if we don't say Caesar. Like, what the fuck is the world coming to? What is this, Nazi Germany all over again? We always hear about the liberal parts of the university system, and we don't hear so much about that from the college system, he said, according to the Tampa Bay Times. In addition to the survey, the bill also... Wait. What's going on here? Florida Senate President Wilton Simpson pointed in his criticism Tuesday at a meeting of the State University System Board of Governors, calling the institutions socialist factories. Again, without much detail on what makes the schools so left-wing. Socialism factories? I mean, maybe things are different up here in Canada. Like I went to university. I did not get an overwhelming sense of socialism and socialism indoctrination within that. Like I was in English literature, so I guess they weren't talking about that as much. Maybe if I was in poli-sci, they would have talked, or maybe certain elements. I took a history course though, and even in history courses, they weren't like, yes, and the march of time moves towards the good Karl Marx and Engels, and we will now learn about their writings and details, so you can go forth into the world and spread the roses, the sweet roses of academia. I think the problem isn't just in higher ed. The truth of the matter is that the kids are being indoctrinated from an early age, he said. I think those of us who have diverse thinking, I want to look at both sides of the issue, see the way the cards are stacked in the education system is towards the left and towards liberal ideology and also secularism. Not that those values are what the country was founded on. Secularism? Jesus, those are the values that we need to get our country back to. You wanted to leave the British monarchy and the fucking church. God damn. Yeah, just another evening in Weimar. Anyways, this is the motherfucker that Joe Rogan wants to apparently vote for as president of the United States. Like, good and consistent. Newly revealed speech. Paid speeches leave no question whatsoever that the Republican Ron DeSantis is a racist. New reports of recent speeches at an annual conference held by right-wing extremists who espouse white supremacist and Islamophobic views provide their latest evidence that Florida Republican gubernatorial nominee, Representative Ron DeSantis, has supported racist groups and associated with their viewpoints in recent past. The congressman, who announced Monday that he was resigning from his seat to campaign full-time against Democrat Andrew Gillum and Senator Bernie Sanders, backed African-American mayor of Tallahassee, spoke 4 times in the last 5 years at the annual conferences of the David Horowitz Freedom Center. The group's namesake and leader is the author of a book entitled Black Skin Privilege and the American Dream, which promotes the notion that white Americans are the victims of a race war. He also wrote on Twitter just last month that black Africans enslaved black Africans, while America freed them by sacrificing 350,000 mainly white Union lives. His organization is dedicated to defending free societies which under attack from enemies within and without, both secular and religious, and exposing the overarching sinister agenda of progressive politicians and groups, including Senator Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Planned Parenthood. GOP's Ron DeSantis now wants to bring the white supremacy he learned at his far-right racist conference to the state of Florida's governor, and then to the President of the United States. Other speakers of recent meetings at the Horowitz Group include multiculturalism critic Douglas Murray, who spoke at Europe's civilizational suicide through broadening immigration, former Breitbart editor Milo Yiannopoulos, and former right-wing activist James O'Keefe. It's all the old friends, who became infamous for producing deceptive propaganda videos regarding Planned Parenthood and protesters of President Donald Trump's inauguration. A spokesperson for DeSantis told the Washington Post that the congressman is a leader in standing up for the truth and that he should not be held accountable for the views of others. Speaking at a Horowitz conference in 2017, DeSantis, a steadfast supporter of Trump, defended the president's Muslim ban and attacked special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into the president's campaign and allegations that Trump had obstructed justice. The revelation about his deep ties to Horowitz came weeks after DeSantis won his nomination and was called by his progressive Democratic opponent articulate, a common dog whistle used to suggest that eloquence and intelligence are aberrations amongst black Americans, and added, the last thing we need to do is monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda with huge tax increases and bankrupting the state. We tried to warn y'all, Ron DeSantis is racist, blah, blah, blah. There's no question whatsoever the GOP governing candidate in Florida. Ron DeSantis is racist proud to cavort with other races. He knew exactly what he was doing with monkeying it up. Anyways, Ron DeSantis, I mean, the guy's a fucking scumbag, but he's a very frightening one as well. Because, yeah, we had Trump, who, no question, was racist, definitely, and also played into the language that he knew would appeal into people's racism. I know a lot of people are surprised to hear this, but there's not racism in America or racism in Canada or any like Western nation that comes nonstop in the form of people just walk up to people of other races and call them slurs. And then that's a racist. That's a hardcore racist right there. That does happen. I'm not saying that. And there is certainly overt racists and proud racists who use words like, monkey up, lynching, stuff like that, who are, going to be there present. Systemic racism, when it's embedded into society itself, a lot of people participating within the systems, they don't even know that a lot of what they're doing is reinforcing racism and racist results, stuff that marginalized communities have to deal with that they may not even be conscious of. People who enact that kind of stuff on them may not even be conscious of it. You may not even be thinking about program biases when you're doing things in your everyday life. So for Trump to speak in such a way that he knows is going to ignite that, not just within certain people, but broadly speaking, within people, is more what he would be looking for. And using that kind of rhetoric and you playing into people's fears, because even people who want to talk about how they're just the wokest, most educated, I am, a Harvard grad, San Francisco liberal, and even though I'm a white person, I'm completely aware of all the stats from redlining to slavery to Jim Crow on this issue. I'm broadly speaking very, very well learned on this. And oof, yeah, that person almost hit me with the car. I guess they don't really know how to drive. Not going to say anything out loud about the race of that person, but I am going to think it. So if you have a president who is a clown but a entertainer, that's what Trump was, who wants to play into people's, inherent programmed racism, to say things out loud that play into their fears. People might come into this country who are going to, harm women. People might come into this country who are going to, he uses language that was so extreme, it turned people off quite a bit too. If you're just like, they're rapists, they're all that. But Ron DeSantis, I think one of the scariest things about him is he's not like Trump. He's not like a New York fucking faux liberal who decided I could just play into the hands of the Republicans. He's not a Christian. Trump is not a devout Christian, but he played to that audience because he knew it would be very profitable and also very easy, to be honest. But he goes on that route. Ron DeSantis is already on that road. He wasn't like, I'm going to do a switch from being like, I'm actually kind of pro-choice and I'm like a New York intellectual, blah, blah, blah. No, he's coming in there just guns blazing. Like, I do not like queer people. I do not like them. I have quite a few problems with certain races. Gonna be honest about that too. Not gonna say the quiet part out loud there, but this is what you're gonna get, It really scares me because if he's going to become the Republican nominee, god damn it.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we are prepared to embark on a mighty jihad in your name. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble jester, attempting in vain to get you to laugh. To our valiant knights of the Round Table, Benji Arnie, Tech Tink, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Mayred, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood. It doesn't matter what I believe, it only matters what I can prove. Egbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Jenna Tao, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevbot, EXE, Brian Ephraim, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojak, Saren 42, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Agent NDN, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our mugs and salute our brave heroes off to another glorious conquest.